Dear learners, hello and welcome. Today we will be discussing Unit 3 that is named as Man-Made Disasters. It belongs to Module 1 of the course named Disaster Management Strategies. The contents of this unit will be an overview of what is known as man-made disaster, the environmental degradation, the technological disasters, war and conflict, and secondary disasters. Therefore, today we will be discussing these contents. The main learning objective of this unit is to understand the meaning, nature, and types of man made disasters, to assess the cause and impacts of wars and conflict, to understand the concept of secondary disasters, and also to understand the major technological disasters, the nuclear accidents, toxic waste, transport and industrial accidents that takes place, and how fire accidents and oil spills all impact the human communities. Therefore, these are the learning objectives of today's unit. Disasters are commonly understood as sudden, disruptive events that exceed the coping capacity of individuals, communities, or societies. While many such events arise from natural processes such as earthquakes, cyclones, or floods, an equally significant portion of today's disasters originate from human behavior, technological failure, or socio-political factors. Man-made disasters, specifically, arise from human actions or technological failures. These human-generated events are collectively termed as man-made disasters or anthropogenic disasters. These impacts can be as devastating as natural disasters, and in many cases, even more long lasting because they stem from systematic failures deeply rooted in modern industrial, technological, and political structures. The man made disasters include wars, industrial accidents, fires, toxic waste, and pollution. They lead to long term environmental, social, and economic impacts. The man made disasters originate from human error, technological failure, negligence, and conflicts. Humanity's rapid technological advancement, coupled with exponential population growth, urbanization, industrialization, and global independence, has intensified the frequency, severity, and complexity of man made disasters. Poor planning, unsafe engineering practices, environmental mismanagement, hazardous material handling, conflict situations, and weak governance tend to amplify the existing vulnerabilities of the communities to man made disasters. Unlike natural disasters, which originate from forces beyond human control, man made disasters are ultimately the result of choices, policies, and actions taken by humans, sometimes intentionally, but very often due to negligence, oversight, or insufficient knowledge. Consequences like death, displacement, economic losses, and pollution are part of man made disaster. They are often preventable with proper planning and regulations. The unit here aims to provide a comprehensive understanding of the nature, types, causes, and consequences of man made disasters, the technological accidents, war and conflict situations, and secondary disasters. It highlights how human activities interact with natural systems, often giving rise to compound disaster scenarios. It also explores how modern societies can prevent, mitigate, or prepare such events through better planning, strong regulatory mechanisms, enhanced safety standards, community awareness, and technological innovations. Now, let us see what are the types of man made disasters. The first one is sudden disasters. The second one is insidious disasters that happen slowly and slow developing disasters. The war and conflict based disasters, technological disasters, nuclear accidents, toxic waste hazards, transport accidents, fires, and oil spills. Now, let us start by discussing the causes of man made disasters. Man made disasters arise from a variety of human related causes, human activities, and human errors. Mistakes in operation, in designing, planning, or decision making always lead to technological failures or industrial accidents. Examples range from mismanagement of hazardous chemicals to procedural failures in nuclear plants. These are some of the examples. The technological failure is complex technological systems in cases such as power grids, nuclear reactors, transportation systems, dams, or data networks can fail due to inadequate maintenance, mechanical faults, or design defects. Industrial and infrastructural negligence, like inadequate safety regulations, poorly maintained equipment, lack of training, and cost cutting measures, can result in hazardous working conditions and catastrophic accidents. Conflict and violent actions can also lead to man made disasters. War, terrorism, civil unrest, and armed conflicts result in destruction of infrastructure, displacement of populations, and widespread physical and psychological trauma of people and communities. Environmental degradation is like unsustainable practices such as deforestation, population explosion, pollution, overexploitation of resources, and poor land use planning can cause long term degradation of the natural environment, often leading to insidious disasters like slow disasters that happen. For example, soil erosion, desertification, and climate change. The impact or impacts of man made disasters are multifaceted and often are long lasting in nature. They include destruction and large scale loss of life and injury caused to people, then displacement of communities and forced migration due to limited availability of resources, then destruction of property and critical infrastructure, long-term environmental contamination, psychological and mental health impacts, social instability and economic disruption, interruption in essential services such as healthcare, power, and basic needs of the day-to-day life of the people. Many of these effects persist long after the disaster, thereby shaping the developmental concerns for generations to come. So these are the huge impacts that we see of man-made disasters. Man-made disasters, if we see, have several common features. The first one is difficult to predict. Unlike natural disasters with indefinable early warning and indicators, man-made disasters often occur suddenly without clear warning signs. Rooted in human decisions, they result directly from human action or neglect, meaning that they are theoretically preventable. Increases in frequency. Modern technological complexity, urban density, and industrial dependence have increased risk of catastrophic failures. They are preventable in nature. Proper regulation, planning, training, and oversight can drastically reduce their likelihood. Long lasting effects. Many man made disasters, such as nuclear contamination or chemical pollution, leave persistent harmful effects that can extend for decades. Now, coming to the type of sudden disasters. Sudden man-made disasters occur abruptly, often with little or no warning, and cause immediate large-scale damage. Their rapid onset means that communities have little time to respond, leading to severe casualties and destruction. These disasters are typically linked to high-risk industrial activities, hazardous material handling, energy generation processes, or large infrastructure systems. The examples are of sudden disasters, industrial explosions, where explosions occur in manufacturing plants, refineries, or warehouses due to equipment failure, combustible gases, or chemical reactions. Such incidents can instantly destroy infrastructure and cause severe burns. Respiratory diseases and fatalities are also seen in case of industrial explosions. Coming to the next example is nuclear accidents. It is one of the huge types of accidents that we see. Catastrophic failures in nuclear reactors, such as the Chernobyl disaster of 1986, release harmful radiation into the environment. The 2011 Fukushima disaster in Japan further demonstrated that technological disasters can be triggered by natural events. Next category is mining accidents. Mines are inherently dangerous due to confined spaces, explosives, and toxic gases. Explosions, collapses, and fires often result in mass casualties and long term health hazards for miners. Major fires, fires in residential buildings, farms, factories, slums, or commercial complexes spread rapidly due to electrical faults and active human activities in flammable materials or human negligence. Chemical leaks. One of the infamous example is the Bhopal gas tragedy of 1984 in India. A leak of methyl isocyanate from the Union Carbide pesticide plant exposed hundreds of thousands of people to poisonous gas. The incident remains the world's worst industrial disaster, causing thousands of deaths, chronic illnesses, and genetic disorders across generations. Some sudden disasters also arise from poorly planned or unsafe human activities, such as deforestation, encroachment of hazardous zones, unregulated construction in both rural and semi urban and urban areas, poor urban planning, improper handling of hazardous materials. These factors increase the likelihood of accidents and exaggerate their consequences. Insidious disasters. It is another form of man-made disaster. So insidious disasters are basically the slowly developing disasters. They develop slowly over time, often unnoticed or understated, until the situation becomes severe and out of human control. They differ from sudden disasters because they emerge gradually, accumulating impacts across years or decades. These disasters are closely linked to unsustainable human practices and environmental degradation. The examples are climate change, human activities such as burning fossil fuel, deforestation, industrial emissions, and agriculture release greenhouse gases that increase global temperatures. Consequences include sea level rise, extreme weather events, prolonged droughts, melting glaciers, and shifting ecosystems. Long term industrial pollution is another form. Industries release pollutants into the air, which is hardly visible or we are conscious about it. And these release pollutants into the air, water, and soil. Over time, these toxic accumulate, leading to health problems such as cancer, respiratory diseases, neurological disorders, and ecological collapse. Soil degradation and biodiversity loss is another example of such disaster. Unsustainable agricultural practices, monoculture cropping, overuse of chemical fertilizers, mining, and land conversion degrade soil quality and reduce biological diversity. Environmental management induced droughts are often seen. Droughts of such nature are mainly seen because of deforestation, disrupted water river systems, and over extraction of groundwater increase the vulnerability of regions to long term drought. So, these are insidious or slowly happening disasters. The consequences of insidious disasters, they often shape or reshape entire ecosystems of a region, influence agricultural productivity, force migration, and contribute to long term economic challenges. Unlike sudden disasters, the insidious disasters, their impacts are slow but persistent, affecting generations to come. Another category of man made disaster is war and conflict based disasters. War and conflicts represent some of the most destructive forms of man made disasters. These events not only cause immediate casualties and physical destruction, but also trigger prolonged social, economic, and environmental crises. They cause destruction, displacement, and infrastructure collapse. The examples of war and conflict induced disasters are the World War II, the Syrian Civil War, the Russia Ukraine War, and 9/11, to be very precise. And there are many more examples as such. These disasters rise due to resource scarcity, political instability, poverty, and enmity between nations and regions of the world. Now, how does war and conflict impact people and communities? The large scale destruction of humanity takes place because of war and conflict situations. Millions of civilian and military deaths occur during war, with survivors often suffering long term trauma. Displacement of populations takes place. Wars force people to flee their homes, creating refugee crises and humanitarian emergencies, which we are seeing in the present times in a very large scale manner. There is collapse of infrastructure due to war and conflict situations. The roads, bridges, hospitals, schools, water systems, economy, and power grids become dysfunctional. Long term economic decline takes place. Productive capacity, trade routes, and essential industries collapse, affecting national development of any region. Environmental damage takes place due to war and conflict because of use of explosives, nuclear weapons, and chemical agents. It contaminates the sea, the oil, air, and other water bodies. Historical and contemporary examples of war and conflict made disasters are World War II, which is one of the deadliest conflicts in history, causing widespread destruction, genocide, and global geopolitical shifts. The Syrian Civil War, ongoing since 2011, resulting in massive civilian casualties, destruction of cultural heritage, and also displacement of millions of people. The Russian Ukraine conflict, to be very precise, in the contemporary era, this conflict involving widespread infrastructural destruction, food security, and humanitarian crisis. The 9/11 terrorist attack, coordinated attacks in the United States in the year 2001, led to major global political, security, and military implications. So these are the huge impact that we see of man-made disasters specific to war and conflict situations. Conflicts or war arise mainly from resource scarcity, political instability, poverty, and weak governance. Preventing conflicts of such nature requires peace building, negotiation, diplomacy, economic reforms, and trust building initiatives. Now, let us see what are the types of secondary disasters. Secondary disasters are events that occur as a consequence of a primary disaster, technological failure, or human action. They often amplify the damage of the original event that can be more devastating if not managed effectively. The examples are chemical spills after natural disasters, the floods, earthquakes, or cyclones can rupture pipelines, chemical storage tanks, or industrial facilities, releasing hazardous substances into the environment. Industrial fires triggered by infrastructural damage, an earthquake or an explosion may damage electrical systems, leading to large scale fires in factories or urban settlements. And building collapse is another type. Poorly designed buildings or those weakened by a primary disaster can collapse later, causing additional casualties. Now, with the explanation of the type, which is secondary disaster, let us look into the impact of a pandemic. Pandemic influenced by human mobility. Although disease may arise naturally, their rapid spread, such as the COVID-19, is influenced by global travel, dense urbanization, and human contact patterns. Environmental pollution, industrial processes, mismanaged waste disposal, and inadequate sewage treatment can create long term pollution emergencies. Secondary disasters are aggravated by the following factors: poor maintenance of infrastructure, there might be lack of land use regulation and weak regulatory systems for the industries and technological failure. Ineffective disaster preparedness and response is another big cause and impacts the communities. Inadequate community awareness to build resilience for a particular disaster. The cascading effect of secondary disasters highlights the need for integrated risk management. These are the issues that are connected to the type of secondary disasters. Now coming to the next category, that is technological disasters. Technological disasters result from failure of machines, systems, or industrial processes, engineered systems, or human operations. Modern society relies heavily on technology, making it vulnerable to systematic failures with widespread consequences. It includes nuclear accidents, toxic waste, transportation crashes, industrial hazards, fires, and oil spills. Nuclear accidents is another category where nuclear energy is the most powerful yet hazardous source of electricity. While highly regulated, nuclear facilities can still experience catastrophic failures, and its main causes are malfunction of critical systems, failure of coding mechanisms, errors during operations, design defects, natural disasters affecting nuclear plants, mishandling or transportal accidents involving radioactive materials, and terrorist attacks or sabotage can cause technological disasters. Now, let us cite some of the examples of major nuclear accidents. The Chernobyl reactor explosion in Ukraine released massive amounts of radioactive material, contaminating vast regions of Europe. It caused immediate deaths, long term cancer cases, genetic mutations, environmental damage, and widespread displacement of people. The Fukushima Daiichi disaster, triggered by a massive earthquake, and tsunami in Japan, reactors overheated due to flooding of backup systems. Radioactive water leaked into the environment, causing long term contamination. Transport related accidents, radioactive materials used in medical and industrial applications can cause radiation exposure if involved in transport accidents. The radiological dispersal devices, also known as dirty bombs, these may be used by terrorists to spread radioactive materials. So, the consequences of nuclear accidents are mainly radiation sicknesses, cancer and genetic disorders, soil and water contamination, long term exclusion zones, economic losses to communities and regions, and psychological trauma on the people. So, toxic waste. Material harmful to humans are known as toxic waste. And environmental disasters also take place because of toxic waste because they are poisonous, radioactive, explosive, and carcinogenic in nature. Toxic waste result because of improper disposal, contamination of soil and water and air. Exposure can cause chronic illnesses, reproductive problems, neurological disorders, and birth defects. Some of the transport accidents. Major modern society depends on transportation networks for daily functioning. Accidents in transport systems can cause massive casualties and economic losses. Road, rail, marine, and aviation accidents are very common in the present days. India records 1.5 lakh road deaths annually. Rail accidents from equipment failure and human error usually takes place. These are the main causes. The common causes are also of road transportation accidents are poor road conditions, overspeeding, drunk driving or driving under the influence of addictive and toxic substances, vehicle malfunction, and neglect of pedestrian behavior, or you can say carelessness on both sides. Industrial accidents due to process failure or negligence, malfunction, human error, or regulatory lapses can take place. Windscale fire, a nuclear reactor fire in the UK, released radioactive contamination across the region. It causes contamination and long term health impacts, death, and injury. Another example of industrial accident was also the Bhopal gas tragedy of 1984. Fire accidents. These occur in residential areas, homes, industries, warehouses, and forests. Fire accidents causes electrical faults, LPG leaks, and flammable and negligence incidents. The fire accidents lead to loss of life, property, and causes ecological damage. Oil spills. Oil spills is another form of man-made disaster. Accidental release of oil into water bodies causes huge loss to the communities and people. The main causes might be any tanker accident, oil tanker accident, equipment failure, natural disasters, pipeline ruptures, and others. They may cause the oil to flow into the natural bodies and water bodies, thus causing lot of hazardous conditions for the communities and also for the flora and fauna. Damage marine ecosystems and pollute beaches and fisheries. There are also many health hazards to communities due to the oil spills, and we can see a lot of economic losses takes place in fisheries and tourism industry because of such man-made disasters. So let us sum up the unit contents, and in this unit we have discussed the types of man-made disasters, what we understood actually what is the meaning of man-made disasters and how it can have different natures, like it can be a sudden disaster, It can be an insidious disaster or slowly happening disaster, and conflict and war related disasters that takes place in the society. Technological disasters involve nuclear, toxic, transportation related, industrial, fire, and oil spill events, thus causing a great loss to humanity. We have discussed the causes and impact of the disasters in the society, in the community, and how it affects the flora and fauna of a region. Most of the man made disasters are believed to be preventable through safety, planning, and regulation of these disasters. Awareness is important to build this or plan the prevention of such disasters happening in the society. Thank you so much.